Hello, students. This is Miss Egan, and these are your Sparta and Athens notes. The big idea that we're going to be focusing on for these notes is understanding that the two most powerful city-states in Greece, Sparta and Athens, had very different cultures and became bitter enemies in the 400s BC. Sparta was a very strict militaristic society, whereas Athens believed in more than just the military. They believed in arts and education and had a different way of life. The first aspect I want to look at is the military, and this is pretty much the most glaring difference between Athens and Sparta. Military service began at age 7 in Sparta and until age 60 or at that time that you passed away, which a lot of times was way before you were 60 because you died in a military battle. There was harsh training and fighting and killing, or we call that combat, and men lived in barracks or dorms away from their homes. And they're known for their phalanx, which was a tight military formation that was later perfected by Alexander the Great. Now, Athens, on the other hand, because of its geography, had a strong navy. You did still have to join the military at age 18. You had to serve for 2 years. And they, of course, fought battles at sea because of their location on the water. And they were expert shipbuilders, and here's a picture of a trireme, a recreation of a trireme, which is a battleship with many oars. They both share what they have in common is they had mandatory military service, and they fought together against the Persians, but then later on they fought each other in the Peloponnesian War, which we will get to later. The next difference I want to talk about, or we want to talk about, is their government. Sparta had a monarchy, which was ruled by a king. The king led the army. Elected officials ran the government while the king was away at war. And the government's main job was to control the large slave population, or the helots, which we'll talk about in a moment. Now, Athens, as you know, created the world's first democracy. And as you know, in a direct democracy, all citizens voted on all issues. They had public debates, and courts decided cases by juries. But in both, they shared that only male citizens participated in government. Now, culture and systems of labor were very different. In Sparta, they valued the military above all else. Women had some rights, especially since many of the men were away for a lot of the time doing military training or at war. So women had to be allowed to take over some of the rights, especially when it comes to managing properties and things like that. But they still were not on equal footing as men. But it was better than other places. 70%, 7 out of 10 people in Sparta were slaves or helots. So that is a lot. That is a lot of people. In Athens, they valued art, architecture, drama, and literature. They created the democracy and were the first to study what we call philosophy. And 30% of the population, so 3 out of 10, were enslaved. And again, remember, slaves were people who were captured in war. What they had shared was organized government. One was a monarchy, one was a democracy. Slaves were taken when people were taken when they were defeated in battle, and in both, children were not as valued as they are today. And if a family needed money, they could sell a child into slavery, do lots of different things that we would consider absolutely out of the question. But children were not necessarily as valued as they are today in our society. So consider yourself lucky, kids. And the last one I want to investigate is the role of women. We've talked about it briefly, but let's investigate it a little bit more deeply. Here we go. In Sparta, women were respected in society as mothers of warriors. That was their main job. Acted as landowner when men were away, and received physical training. I'm going to stop here for a second because I hear people coming in my door. I'm back. So when women received physical training, which was unusual for Greece at the time. In Athens, women could not own land, could not participate in the democracy, and could not even leave the house without an escort. And there's evidence to show that in certain times in ancient Athens, women couldn't even leave the house without being fully covered with a scarf like we see in some countries today. So it is ironic that in the birthplace of democracy, where the rights of men were very valued. Women were not on equal footing or anywhere near equal footing with men. In both societies, place was in the home. Women were not going to have jobs outside of the home in either Sparta or Athens. They were expected to marry pretty much before the age of 15. That was the age of marriage. As soon as you were able to have children, you were expected to. And they were not educated in either one. So it wasn't, again, a great time to be a woman in ancient Athens. And did not have as much rights as men. That goes without saying. So that's an important thing that they both had in common, that they both were not equal to men in either Sparta or Athens. And the last thing I want to talk about is the Peloponnesian War. I had you guys practicing Peloponnesian. Um, what was the Peloponnesian, or who was the Peloponnesian War? It was between Athens and their allies, which are the people who sided with Athens, and Sparta and its allies. It was a war over money. It was on the Greek mainland at the Aegean Sea, which is called the Peloponnesus. It was between 431 and 404. Think about how long that was, kids. How many years was that? Why? Why did it take place? Athens took money from the Delian League to build the Parthenon, and Sparta didn't like it. I am extremely simplifying. That's an extreme simplification of how that happened, but I wanted to simplify it down for you. After the Persian War, a lot of the city-states got together and pooled their money together to help protect them because they knew Persia could strike at any time. And they held their money in the island of Delia. And long story short, Athens thought it would be a good idea to take the money that was supposed to protect them from the Persians and build the Parthenon. And that really made most of the city-states mad, but Athens was like, too bad, so sad, we're the best city-state in the world, we can do what we want. And Sparta decided to get together with city-states and wage a war. How did it end? It ended in an uneasy truce, but Athens was in ruins. The Spartans surrounded the Athens for many years and didn't allow any food in or out or anything, and people died of disease, and it was very horrible. And but they were sick of fighting, and they decided to just end it in a truce. We'll continue talking about Athens and Sparta and what happened when we start talking about Alexander the Great in the next week. But that is basically all you need to know about Athens and Sparta at this point. And please explore the other resources I have on our webpage if you have any more interest or questions. Thank you.